But we're going to just... So yes, good morning, everybody. Yeah, forgive the slightly husky voice. I've got a day of delivery to do with a husky voice. I'll have no voice left at all by the time I finish, but there you go. So welcome. I don't think anybody else is joining us because it's just gone 9 o'clock. So it's a small but perfectly formed group this morning. And the subject matter will open in prayer in a second, but the subject matter is, well, Christmas. Yeah. What's that got to do with business? Is my sort of question, really. What does the Christmas story, can it give us any support around our businesses, our careers? In our 4 cases here, it is our business journey, and to discuss that, really, what's the relevance of Christmas to the business environment. Actually, when I started to think about it, I could think of quite a few areas where it's relevant. So, but shall we open in prayer? Alan, do you want to just save my voice a little bit and just open the meeting in a short prayer? Is that all right?
Lord, we thank you for bringing us together today. We pray your blessing on this meeting. We pray that you'll help us to listen to each other and to share openly and honestly what's on our hearts. And we pray that through that we may come to learn more and to experience more of your spirit and your love. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Alan. It was lovely. Thank you. Good morning. And Colin's just joining us, I think. So just let Colin check in. Here he is, Mr. Foster. Good morning, Colin. Hi.
Not sure how long I'll be here. I'm waiting to hear from a client who wants a meeting with me, but there you go.
No problem. I say we may decide it's a short meeting and we'll call it a day. Otherwise, I've got to go at about 9:20. So, right. So we've just opened in prayer, Colin, and the subject matter for the discussion today is what's Christmas got to do with business? Discuss. Anyone got any thoughts?
I thought for me, actually, when I was thinking about this in advance, actually, was I suppose the thing that struck me was, if you look at the Christmas story, it's actually the people who you might choose to overlook who are the real engines of the story. So we get Joseph and Mary, who obviously are having to move from one place to another. They're having to go, and they're cast out of, they can't be fitted in the inn. They don't fit in. And then it's the shepherds, who were kind of socially quite an outcast group at that time, who are the people who were the first ones to witness this. And it's only once you've got those people in there, and they're the people who go out and tell everybody what's happened. And it's only then that, a while later, you get the kings come in, and kind of putting down their gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So it did occur to me, actually, that message really is that there's something there about the unfashionable, about the unexpected, about the unpredictable, not necessarily being a bad thing, and not taking the well-established routes. And actually, if you go on past the Christmas story to where Joseph and Mary are under threat, and they flee, they don't go back to where they came from. They go to Egypt. This idea of taking a different route to avoid danger. That's quite a powerful. It's always a verse that struck me. That idea that they went home by a different road. I love that phrase. They went home by a different road. So they know where they're going, but they're taking a different route to get there, and just us being open to that.
So there's a couple of things a couple of phrases you said there, which I thought were really interesting. Who's the star of the story? And I think that's a really interesting one when we think of our businesses, our clients, and particularly, none of us have got huge businesses, but if you did have a large business, sometimes the stars of the story are the kings. They're the people who run the business. And
well, we've just had that conversation, haven't we? It's easy to do that.
Yeah. Whereas actually the stars of the story were the shepherds, if you like, or the people that were obedient and did what they were told, and all that sort of jazz. That's quite interesting in business. Who's the stars of our business? And then being open to a new route. I think, sometimes we think we've got it sorted, we know what we're doing, but sometimes we have to be open to a new route. So yeah, nice opening, Alan. Thank you. David, have you got any thoughts about what's Christmas got to do with business?
Well, for me, I mean, again, as you said, Paul, there's a number of different routes you can go. One of the ones I thought of actually was, if we look at this, the birth of a beloved child, think of those perhaps that are setting up a business, or even just setting up doing a new business project, which is important. The twists and turns that happened. A very difficult journey, wasn't it? There's nowhere to stay. Number of times perhaps they felt like this is a waste of time, or what are we doing here? Is this really God ordained or not? If you got given what Mary had been told, they're probably thinking, what's going on here? Why isn't this just flowing? Why is there no room in this inn? Why are we in this stable? So if you think about that, it might well be, if you're launching a business, you might well be finding you're launching it and it doesn't seem like a launch should be going like this. This doesn't seem right. So I would say, whether it's a new business or a project, it's kind of, sometimes we have our views, I think, on how we think it should go, as opposed to how perhaps God is calling us to actually deliver it, if you say. So, and linked to that, I would also say, how often do we perhaps refuse gifts that are brought to us? Because I quite often think, I mean, did Mary and Joseph go, I'll keep my language down, did they say, oh goodness me, what's happening with these wise men bringing these gifts? Did they just say, oh good, they've come up with this? Frankincense, oh, that's good for you to bring that. And
she'd have probably wanted nappies, really. Baby formula. So I put some gold, frankincense and myrrh. Do the creme. That's what I need.
But these are unusual people turning up with perhaps unusual gifts. So where in our business world, again, in our perception, do we have people turning up and we just perhaps dismiss them because, these are unusual people. These are not gifts we need for our business. So maybe it just gets us to open up our perception as to, perhaps again, if it's the delivery, what is God then sending us to support us in the business, which we weren't anticipating?
I mean, I really resonate with that from a personal perspective. I think you've heard the story that when I was really struggling to get my business off the ground, and I said, okay, I'll accept whatever you bring me, God, and he brought me farming. That's, and look at where we are now.
Yeah.
And so, going back to what you were saying, Ali, open to a new route from God. Absolutely, that I'm a perfect example of both the things that you said and that David's just said. Being open to a new route, not closing it down, and then being open to unusual gifts from unusual people. You're quite right. It was and sometimes we may be a bit too fixed in our ways. Anything else, David? That was really cool.
No, I think that's it. Those are the two first ones that jumped into my mind.
I thought there was an interesting thing that David said there about the setting and stuff. It reminded me of something I saw. It's going back a few years, when someone said you can always tell when a business is about to go under. He had a thing called the water feature measure, is that once a water feature occurred, once a company got an office with a water feature in reception, this was a sign that they were basically about to go bankrupt. Because it was hubris, it was just, we're spending money on the wrong things. We want the externalities. We want to be at the inn, we don't want to be in the stable, and sometimes, we've all got to start in the stable, haven't we? That's it. We shouldn't be too proud to start in the stable. Absolutely.
I like that.
Move into the inn is where we start getting into trouble, I think.
Well, actually, I think when you think about starting in the stable, how many people who start businesses, they go networking, and you need a website, you need flash business cards, you need all these flashy things that actually you don't need at the beginning. Far better to start with a Vistaprint business card that costs you a tenner, rather than go and spend fortunes on flashy business cards and flashy websites. So interesting. Owenka, any thoughts from you? I thought some of those things that have been said already will resonate with you, given the conversation you and I just had. So what does the Christmas story mean for you and your business?
So interestingly, because I don't necessarily celebrate Christmas, as you know. Okay, so I saw the topic and thought, should I really join this today? And I'm in listening mode. And so I think it's quite interesting how I'm going to say the analogy of the Christmas story has been, as you've been discussing, and how that plays out in business. And I like what Dave has just talked about in terms of, you know, expecting things to be a certain way and them not being that way, and how that can throw you into, well, am I doing God's way? Am I doing my own way? And just kind of maybe the thought is, can we get so involved with Christmas and all the trimmings of Christmas and actually not focus on what it is that God's called us to do? So if our business is what God has called us to do, can our attention get divided into the festivities of Christmas rather than the things that we're called to do? And then could that lead to the waterfall effect that Alan's just talked about? So is it, you know, where are we putting our attention? Is our attention on what God's called us to do, or doing our business in the best possible way? Or do we take our attention off our business and what we should be doing for our clients as we approach that December? You know, it's like almost like people go on holiday from the 14th of December until the 10th of January, don't they? So is that really appropriate for our business? I guess that would be my
actually like the analogy of, we can actually get caught up in the festivities of our business as well. Again, the fluffy stuff, the stuff that's not the core story, that's not the core purpose of what we're meant to be doing. So really interesting. Colin, any thoughts from you, my friend?
Yeah, I enjoy Christmas. I'm finishing on the 16th until the 9th of January. And there's a reason for that, because first of all, for someone whose most of his business life has actually stayed in the stable, only in sort of recent years has the sort of been you know, sort of a lot more financial security, shall we say. I think there are two sides to Christmas. I think there's the religious side, the birth of Jesus and all of that, and there's the celebrations that go along with that. And one risk I think we have when we're running our own business is that we get so embroiled in it, so focused on it, working stupid hours to actually get things done, that during the rest of the year, we put aside very little time to be able to sit back, breathe, and maybe enjoy the fruits of that work that we've done over the past 12 months. And so for me, Christmas, yeah, it's about presents and fun and the occasional beverage, but it's also about looking back on the year that I've had and looking forward on the year to come and the new life that will bring into the business. And so for me, having been given a reason to stop, pause, celebrate, think is just as important in my Christian life as it is in my business life, because I might not do that normally in the 9 till 5, 7 or 8 days a week that we as small businesses tend to work through.
It's a really
so
important point,
actually that's sitting back and just going and telling people, you know what, this is when I finish for Christmas and this is when I start again in the new year, I think is really important, because that allows you to then set some parameters. So yes, I'm telling the world I'm finishing on the 16th of December. Actually, I'll probably still be doing some work the week after, but it'll be doing the final wrapping up of stuff. And yes, I'm telling people I'm not back until the 9th of January, but I'll still be doing something the week before that, bits and bats, getting ready, but spending most of that time just chilling out, getting back some energy, ready for the next year. And I think that is an important part of Christmas. As
love it.
As celebrating the thing that kicked it all off.
Resting and reflection. I'll just take Owenka's question, then I'll say a couple of words, and I'm going to have to go. So, Owenka, what do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I do like that. So like I said, even though I don't get embroiled in that stuff, it is an amazing time of year because everybody stops. So we have like lots of family time, and we have like a Thanksgiving service on the 31st of December. So it's almost like there's a real opportunity to really reflect back. What have you gone through? What has, let me give it its name. What has God taken you through this year? And there's that time of reflection. What does that mean going forward? So I love that opportunity to rethink and replan. And I think it's quite apt that I've just moved offices at the end of the year. So it's almost like getting ready to kind of look forward to what that new thing will be. And the final thing, I like the fact, because I sometimes wonder, where am I? I do all these things and God keeps me, but when am I going to have the massive big business with all of the income that's going to come? And I like what Colin just said about, still in the stable. and when I'm in the stable, I'm actually still accepting or waiting for those gifts to come in, those gifts of support, those gifts of ideas, those gifts of help that allow me to move from the stable into my own home, if that makes sense. So I just loved all of what you said. That just,
perfect.
So
I think the other nice thing as well, of course, is if you have a holiday during the year, if you run your own business, you have a holiday during the year, other people aren't on holiday, your clients aren't on holiday. So you've always got, you can be in the middle of we used to go on up to a remote Scottish cottage, and sort of every other day I would drive down the valley and into the local town to pick up any emails in case anything had happened to client to come. At Christmas, you know what? It's not just me that's shut. Virtually everybody is. So that break becomes a proper break to sit back, reflect and recharge the batteries, because the odds are no other bugger's trying to get hold of you.
It's interesting because with the absence of Sunday now being a day of rest, and it's now a day of trading like every other day, you're right, actually, Christmas and possibly Easter are the only two times perhaps when we do all start to slow down. My thoughts before I go were in terms of, if you take it literally, the message really, Christmas, of hope and light into darkness and the gift of life into the world, is when things are difficult, to me, that's almost what the Christmas story is. It's the reminder that God sent light into the world to make it better, and he can do that in our businesses. So if the order book looks a bit empty, or we're worried about what's happening in February, March time, Christmas is a reminder that God's an ever-presence of light in the world, and he will support, and he's already given us the greatest gift to a certain degree, and also ultimately that God's in control, which is really what everybody said. All of you have said something similar, that it's recognizing we're not the only ones that are in control of what's happening in our businesses. So sadly, I've got to go because this meeting starts at, this workshop that I'm running starts at 9:30. David, would you mind just becoming the host so I can just keep the recording going? I'm fairly certain, because it's been recorded in the cloud, if I make you the host, the meeting will continue when I leave. Okay. If it doesn't, then I'm fairly certain it will, the way Zoom works. So if I just make David the host for now, and then continue to discuss what we've been talking about, really.
I don't think you can turn your computer. If you turn your Zoom account off, it'll knock everybody else out, doesn't it? Because you've set the meeting up.
I don't think so, because David's now the host. So but if that is the case, then I'm sorry that it was a brief meeting. And wish you happy Christmas, etc. I'm fairly certain I can leave now with David as the host, and the meeting will continue. I'm fairly certain.
Probably. We'll blame you anyway.
What did you say, Alan?
We have that recorded, that he said.
Yes.
I'm pretty certain.
Yeah,
this can happen.
Well, I think, although if it does happen and you want to continue, I think one of you can just click on the link and open up.
And if it doesn't, and we do go, it's a learning process.
It is. So if that was to happen as I leave, then can I just thank you all for your support this year and attending these meetings. I hope you've got something out of them each time that we've met. Christmas is a special time of rest, and actually I've just recognised that I'm going to close the business between Christmas and New Year. I mean, officially, and tell people it's closed, because Jess and James are both off on holiday, and I was going to, I'll do with bits and pieces. No, I think I'm actually going to say to the world, real success is close down between Christmas and New Year, and then just try and get some rest myself, because the temptation is, isn't it, is to do the planning, do the budgeting, do all the organising, all that sort of jazz. But actually, I think what Colin said about reflection was really powerful.
And that's why I have the extra sort of part of the week or extra weeks either side of the key week, because it gives me time to do.
No, I mean, unfortunately, I am working up until the 22nd. So I'm down in Cornwall, and I'm starting again straight.
You can plan that for next year, though, Paul. God
willing.
willing.
But this year, the way that it falls, you can definitely have the week. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So bless you all. If just say leave, it doesn't say end the meeting. So I'm fairly certain you'll be able to carry on.
Go for it. Go for it.
It is. Good luck, everybody.
Have fun. Take care. Bye.
Cheers, bye-bye.
Oh,
we're still here.
We're still here.
Recording still on.
And it's still recording.
Scary.
Even better. It's magic. It's magic.
There you go.
I thought it was interesting. I mean, for me, this year's been part of a transition, really, for me to in terms of mindset, I think, which is the other thing, because you're right. I mean, I had fairly low ambitions for the business, which is really just to make a living, and I've kind of done that. Well, I have done it, actually. You know, I've made my money this year. I haven't had to dip into savings or anything. It's been good, but it's actually that idea of faith that's been the thing, because I've spent so long, you know, I spent 30 years, best part of 30 years, expecting to get a certain amount of money on a certain day, and you know, now that isn't happening, and that notion of having to take a step forward each time, a bit like Mary and Joseph, you know, you'll go into somewhere and you don't know what's going to be at the end and whether there's going to be room for you there, but actually you just have to keep taking it. And like when I was on the call last month, I think I said, for those of you who were on the call last month, I'd lost a client, and you know, I thought that was going to give me 3 months of solid income. And it basically gave me 2 weeks, you know, and then they ended it, which was a bit of a blow. You know, no one likes to be kind of fired, but I think you said, Colin, water off a duck's back. It happens. I've had. I mean, we did the invoices on Wednesday night, and I've actually invoiced for more this month than any month previously, bizarrely. And I thought, how has that happened? Because I've not got another client, it's just existing clients just saying, oh, can you do this? And can you do this? And, oh yeah, we need this by the end of the month. So I've, as I say, I have invoiced for more work this month than any other month. And you just think, well, that's not what I thought I was going to be doing at the beginning of the month, when on whatever it was, the 2nd of November, they phoned up and said, yeah, don't bother coming in. We're going to take it in a different direction.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is really about having faith sometimes.
Yeah. Somebody somewhere went, well, they're going to want you a bit more, and they're going to want you a bit more, and they're going to want you there. And actually, this one of you're working with at the moment, the way they want to do work in the way you like to do work. So you know what? Let's kill that off, and that then gives you the capacity in your diary. Every time I've been struggling for work in the past, and I've been doing this now for 23 years, little quick word, boss, work's a bit quiet. If you can see your way to just sending me something, that would be really, really great. I'll carry on doing my part, you know, going to network event, put myself out. But if you can see your way, and I think the longest I've had to wait is about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And someone has contacted me. Oh, we've been talking to such and such a body, and they've said that you're the person we need. It happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then you have to remember to say, thanks, boss.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it happens, and people will say, oh yeah, but that's just a coincidence, isn't it? You know, sort of you've been putting yourself out there, people being aware of you, etc., etc. And it's okay. If you want to call it a coincidence, you can do, but I know better.
Yeah. Again, that sense of faith of moving forward towards something we don't really quite know where we're going. That's a real different, you know, that is what I've realized. It's the mentality of that.
Yeah.
The mentality of wanting certainty in a situation where you don't have certainty.
Yeah, it's
God
one of
saying, you know, actually, you've got to live a bit here by real faith.
Yeah,
That's,
it's one of the weirdest things when you're running your own business, especially when you've spent so much time, like say, in a nice structured environment where the bank account goes bing, same day, every month with the same amount of money in it, or maybe a little bit more because you've had a rise or whatever, to literally the phone not ringing, the emails not coming in, looking at the bank account and going,
Yeah.
have I done the right thing? And all that. And then you'll do some work for someone and they'll go, oh, that was really great. And you'll get potentially, as has happened in my case, you'll get some praise from a client who really appreciates the work you've done, that you're doing what you used to do in your job, but people just said, oh, well, that's what we expect of you. And you are doing it. And someone has actually praised you for using your talents and your skills. And that then gives you a boost and that extra. And it's that sort of almost recognizing you for the talents that you have got, recognizing what you bring to their party, a bit like the wise men recognized what Jesus brought to the party, to the world, and bringing their gifts to him. The shepherds, bringing sheep and all that, and it sort of it just gives you that really great warm feeling inside. And the fact that the bank account then goes bing as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So
and
yeah,
also, I'm thinking about business partners. In if you think of this again, Matt's nativity story, I have a sense that Mary, I mean, she was carrying Jesus. She would have known as a mother what was going on, and no doubt following her. I just sense she had a real knowing this was so, I can trust this. And I'm just wondering actually if Joseph is like one of those partners. Okay, an angel visited him, but he's like, I'm not sure about this. I don't actually know what's going on. It's just a child. What's the problem? And all those doubts he had around, well, what's she been up to? This is not my child. What's going on? That maybe perhaps he's like the partner when you've got a business. I'm not sure about this, not sure what's going on. And perhaps that going to an unusual place, having the people turned up, probably had a greater impact on Joseph, on a sense again.
I don't know. I'd look at it the other way around, from being a mum and actually being pregnant. Yeah, if that makes sense. So this person tells you that you are going to have this baby, okay? And you're like, okay, cool. And then all this stuff happens inside because it's a mental process that you go through. And you have no, when it's the first time, you have no understanding what's going to come the next day. Do you know what I mean? And then you've got a husband who is kind of like, oh, well, I'm believing you. Nothing is showing for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. Do you know what I mean? So some of what you're saying makes sense. But I just think, actually, every day Mary's having to kind of go, that thing told me I was having this baby, and I feel really crap. So maybe it is. Do you know what I mean? I think there's two different sides. I think that both those juxtapositions are really interesting in terms of that, because Mary wouldn't know what was happening on a day because it was her first time, and she'd have no one necessarily she could talk to until she met John the Baptist, as her cousin Elizabeth. She had no one to talk to, did she, about it, because it was just a weird sense. So I just think that journey into the unknown, I think that's again a bit like business and partnership, because you just don't know until you know it. So I don't know how many of you have had. I don't like if you've gone into business with somebody, partnered with somebody because you thought that was the right thing, and then when you're into that partnership, actually it is a journey of faith. And it doesn't necessarily turn out the way you thought it was going to be. I don't know if have you ever done that? You've gone into business with somebody and it's like, I thought it was going to be great. I had the understanding, and it turned out that actually that wasn't the best thing and something better came on later. Or God wanted you to go it alone for longer. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've definitely had that. Yes, and I know
Yeah,
it doesn't happen very often, but I have had that, and where I've looked to do something with someone, and
yeah,
then from before it looked like actually this would be great. When I got into it, it's like no, actually this just isn't right. It's not flowing. It's too difficult. Not
yeah,
judgment on the person, no judgment on me. It just doesn't work together. If that makes
yeah.
sense.
And what do you do in that situation?
Well,
How
actually,
easy was it to walk away? Or did you
it
walk away?
wasn't.
Did it
And
fall
bless him,
apart?
actually, Paul gave me some help because in the midst of it, it can be difficult to actually navigate. So I've got the words somewhere that he gave me, but it was just such a beautiful, graceful way that actually I was just honest and I kind of
Yeah,
let go of the partnership. And actually, I think there's always a sense that the other also has some inkling that isn't quite so good as well once you say this. So they were also graceful in return. So it was a real learning point for me to really trust that feeling that if things weren't flowing, it's no judgment on myself or the other. It's just because I've known enough partnerships where they really have flown and it's been joyous to know that if it's really hard work and it's not
yeah,
working, that the best thing for me to do is to have that honest conversation and if need be, then to say, well, it's not working and whatever, I can look at those words I had to then exit the relationship, the partnership. And that was a fairly early stage because, of course, you can get into partnership where you've been going a long time, but it hasn't been good, if that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah,
That
yeah,
gets more difficult then because it's more more entrenched.
yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think
Interesting.
it also depends partly if you come to rely on somebody else. I know, I mean, this wasn't me, but someone I know, they were in partnership with someone, and what they didn't realize was that other person was pretty much wholly reliant on them for the work, for what they were doing. It was like 90% of what they were doing. So when he turned around and said, well, look, I kind of feel, it's not quite working for me. I need to kind of do this in a different way. It was a complete collapse. But I think what that person then had to learn was actually you've been reliant on somebody else, and if it's
Yeah,
your business, you can't be reliant. You can't put all your eggs in that one basket. I think there's got to be something there whereby you take responsibility for it yourself, and that's a tough thing. I've tried to do that. Making sure I've got enough clients so that if you do lose one, there's still other people there, and trying to build a bit of a pipeline and making sure, trying to have honest conversations with people about when, whether they're going to renew you or whether they're not, and how long this is likely to continue for. And it's not always easy, but sometimes you've just got to get that. So, you're clear where you are. It is tough. It is tough.
yeah. So I'm talking about kind of little miracles, being in the stable. I love that one. I'm sorry, being in the stable. But talk about little miracles. It's quite interesting. So I don't know if you know that I'm relaunched or launching. I've launched the kind of gifted fraction program, and I had this 3-day challenge, which is a method for doing that. And in my head, it was like, oh my goodness, if this doesn't come off as a process, I don't know what direction to go next. And it was just really interesting. So the challenge went really well. There was loads of people who kind of joined up, registered. And then it comes down to that crunch thing, if anybody's going to buy into it or not. And so I had 5 people who were interested, which was really kind of good at different levels, wanted to start at different times. And then so the one person joined up, paid the deposit, and the second part of the payment was due yesterday, or due end of November. And I could just feel in my head kind of like, I don't like chasing people for money. If people have said they're going to do something, I want them to like I want them to take responsibility for what they have said.
Yeah.
And so I could just feel myself, was it the 28th or was it the 30th when he's supposed to pay? And do I have to go and remind him, well, it's not that invoice, he should, all that was going through my mind. And then I got a text message from this person saying, hi, I haven't done very much. Where do you want me to pay the second payment? I'm like, what? So I was just like really, really like freaked out. But I also owe my coach and stuff some money. So I was saying to God, rather that I'd like to, this to trust that this business, this new thing is actually going to bring the income to pay off what I need to pay off. And And it was just really interesting. So he come in, so he paid his deposit, he paid a bit extra yesterday. And then all of a sudden, I now had enough to make the payment. Do you know what I mean? It's just that whole,
Yeah.
and because, I mean, yes, I could go and deplete my savings, but I just wanted just to trust that this thing that God is doing is going to be the way forward, and it will pay itself rather than taking it out of my family. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it was,
No,
that was,
absolutely. Yeah.
so that was just really like literally last night. It's like, oh my goodness, money's there. I can now pay that one. And then I've got somebody who's supposed to be joining next week. So we'll see. And if that happens, the next 2 payments are made. Do you know what I mean? So it's just in that space of trusting that it's going to be okay. And then when I launch the leadership stuff, when I complete that in the new year, kind of February, March time, to see what that process does. So yeah, it's just interesting. Yeah, it's just me at the moment still, but it's all good. It's all good. I just wanted to say that. So thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah. So,
yeah, I mean, I think that's true, but it is getting in that space of trust and faith, which is really difficult, because you're right. If I look too far ahead, I just look and think, well, I haven't got any work guaranteed beyond this point. You know, what's going to happen then? And you think, well, but actually what I realized is over the last, whatever it is, 15, 18 months, essentially stuff has turned up, you know.
It's been that long, is it?
Yeah. I mean, it's 18 months since I left YMCA. I was kind of doing bits and bobs, but I really started it kind of September last year. I had my hernia up, went on holiday for a week, and then came back the middle of September. So it's basically 15 months that I've been on my own. And yeah, it's thus far, you know, every point at which I've thought, oh God, you know, it's what's going to happen now? Something has happened. An email has come in. Someone's picked up the phone. Something has happened. And you know, even that client that I didn't have for long, you know, I got a couple of weeks of decently paid work, which at a point when I'd just come back off holiday and didn't have a lot going on, it was really good until other stuff has started to pick up again. So, you know, it served a purpose, even that. But again, you know, you kind of think, well, I know I'm all right until Christmas. I'm probably all right till the end of January. I have no idea what's going to happen beyond that. There are people saying, yeah, I might want you to do this and I might want you to do that. But no one said, you're definitely doing this. And so you've then got to have that conversation. And you realize as a consultant, I think one of the things that I had to make the mental shift was, as a consultant, you're not important anymore. Having been the Messiah, having been the person who everybody has to pay obeisance to, actually, as the consultant, another consultant told me when I set up, he said, and I said, God, you know, I can't get people to return my calls and everything. He said, you need to understand, people are paying for the right to ignore you. You know, that's what they're doing, and I've done it. I've probably done it with David, actually. You know, when you know, sometimes when you're paying someone, you think, yeah, I'm not going to get back to him because, you know, I'll deal with him when I deal with him. Yeah, we're paying him a good enough day rate to do it. Yeah, and people are now doing it to me. So you just realize you've just got to do it. You're not the most important person, and it's been really good for me in that sense, spiritually, to just get off my Messiah plane and just realize, just play the more humble part. But it is a shift.
Okay, nice. I like that.
I think the humble part can be extremely powerful as well. I know when I've done corporate clients, I think the humble part, or the almost taking some of the politics out. What I've realized on the bigger clients is going in as a consultant actually gives me a greater political clout. Because I did a job with Barclays where I went and did a piece of consultancy work. And as a consultant, I was going to kind of give them free rein. And when I went in, people knew I was on this project and they're willing to talk to me from the department, and it was a great relationship. Barclays then made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So I then became a paid employee, one stage acting director within Barclays. And the changed because then the politics came in. So I wasn't as gladly accepted as I was before, because it was like, well, what are you doing here? You're from this department, and why do you want to come in and do this? So, and of course, you've then got all the politics of the system that then comes in on you, whereas in a consultant, you're like, I'm not doing that. I haven't got any of that.
yeah.
So there's it
Yeah,
kind of cuts both
definitely.
ways, if that makes sense. I think that's
Definitely. I think I'm going through that, well, in terms of the work that I do with Birmingham City Council. So I'm a parent engagement consultant. That's what I am for them. And I've been doing that for kind of 5 years. And then they gave me a Birmingham City Council email. And then, so even though I'm still a consultant, I have a birmingham.gov email. Well, that, and I'm on their database. So people now assume that I'm an employee and they want to put things in my diary and treat me like I'm an employee. And the amount of times I've had to say, guys, I don't work for you.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where they just wasn't hearing, and to the fact that I've just taken that as a message to exit. So I've kind of said I'm leaving. I'm not going to leave I'm going to give the project to another parent to carry on, but I will not be working in this way, because the respect is completely different now that they think I'm an employee, even though I'm not. Just the doors that have shut. Whereas I could talk to directors, I could get a meeting in the diary whenever I wanted, and say, excuse me, where's my invoice? Now it's like they just see the Birmingham dot and just ignore me and take the work that it's been the worst. No, not the worst experience. It's been a real eye opener of having to look at what is my worth and what am I willing to do. And so I'm exiting, and then I get, don't leave, we're really sorry. It's like really weird, but I completely get that. It's horrible though, because I've had years of like doing what I want, saying what I want, getting paid to have a big mouth. Do you know what I mean? And all of a sudden they just now ignore me. And that is really hard. So yeah, that's been humbling, to say the least. But yeah, we'll wait to see what the next part is. But
Yeah, I have a call at 10, so I'm going to need to go in a bit. But there's one thing I wanted to say, really, which has got nothing to do with Christmas or anything, but I'm just going to say it anyway. So, and actually, David, you may have seen this, but when I left, one of the reasons that I decided to go down the route that I went down is that I wanted to spend more time writing, because I'd really enjoyed writing the book. And I was going to try it, and I was writing another one, and I just hadn't had the time to get it done. I thought, I'm really going to dedicate the time. So when I took time off over the summer, I dedicated that time to finishing the book. And I've spent the last 12 months basically trying to flog the book and find a publisher. And last month I found a publisher. David, I think you did see that, didn't you? Yeah,
I did see it.
I've got a publisher for my book. So it's a fantastic thing. And I've had so many calls over the past 12 months from recruitment consultants asking me about jobs and all the rest of it. And it's the temptation to go back and to go back to that world. And in fair play to my wife, she's always said, although I'm sure there's part of her would quite like to have a kind of big salary, know it's coming in every month. She's always said, we don't need the money. We don't need the money now. We finished the mortgage. We don't need that big salary to do everything. And I kind of think of the opportunities I've turned down or not pursued or whatever, and haven't got. Some of them, a couple of them I went and had a bit of a look at and didn't get them, and just none of them felt right. And actually having the courage to say, you know what, I took this decision because I wanted to have time to do that. And that feels as though it's paid off. August, September next year, the book will be coming out. Someone else will be putting a load of stuff behind it. It will, I'm doing rewrites at the moment. They need me to do rewrites by the end of January, all the rest of it. So I need some time to do that. But actually, it's just having the courage to keep on that path, I think. And it's taken, it's taken until the last month, so over 12 months to finish the book and get the book actually sold. It's been a real slog, and there's been a whole load of rejections on the way where I didn't think it was going to happen at some point. And then it has happened at the point when you've just given up, where I'd literally given up and thought, well, it's not going to happen. Somebody says yes. And, that's going to be that's just great. It's a game changer for me, so yeah, that was my success of the month.
So well done. And on that note,
yeah.
So unless David, if you've got anything you wanted to add.
One more closing thing that came, one closing quick point that came to me one was just a quick one to say, actually, the Christmas story didn't really, obviously didn't become the Christmas story until the full message of Jesus' life came out. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, hey, we've got the Christmas story now, he's been born. It was written on.
Yeah.
After,
People
so
didn't know
that's
the
why
Christmas story was the
people
Christmas
didn't know
story,
it.
did they?
Absolutely, yeah. And the second thing was, when Alan was just speaking there, I've always said this, and I don't think I have no proof in the Bible for it. It's just a gut sense that, and I mean, it was only what 3 years his ministry anyway. So it's not as if Jesus had a 5-year plan. It was a sense for me that he was literally, just as you were talking there, Alan, I just had a sense of he was going with the flow. He was always in prayer, wasn't he? Going off to a quiet place and sensing, okay, this is my next step. This is what I'm doing now. What do I do now? So there's a sense that actually he probably totally gets and understands, because he did this conversation around, we're talking about business, but in a sense of, where's my next piece of work coming from? What am I doing now? What feels right? Do I go for this? Do I go for that? He must have had that same sort of process that he was going through on probably a daily basis as to where do I go.
Yeah.
Down to, and just one final thing, the Samaritan woman at the well, come and stay. Yeah, guys, we're going here for 2 days. You know what I mean? So he had this pivot flexibility for following what he really felt was his calling.
Good.
Sounds good.
Well,
Well,
thank
on
you
that
very
note,
much, David, for that.
I end, it should stop and hopefully go to, well, it will go to Paul's cloud, won't it? So
yeah.
Well, one
So
hopes
have a-
so.
Yeah, it will do on your end. So
Cloud of
have a
angels.
lovely. So I'm gonna get off. I've got to go write
Yeah.
my Friday lunch live that's going to be aired at 12:30. So I need to go and do some of that. Yeah, I haven't even looked. I think I've got an idea, so I'm trusting God on this point that it's going to come together before 12. So yeah, I'm going to go and do that.
Yes,
But have a great
Christmas,
time
everyone.
Have a
off.
great Christmas if I don't see you
Yeah.
before.
And well
Yeah.
done, Alan. That's brilliant news. That's absolutely brilliant news.
It is.
Take care.
Looking forward to it.
All right then,
Cheers.
take care. God
Bye,
bless.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.